Thumbs up.
Everybody good? All righty. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining me. This morning, before I take questions, I would like to introduce Mr. Derek Ebert. This 19-year-old graduate of Baltimore City College is a current student at University of Baltimore. He is Baltimore's first Youth Poet Laureate. When I talked about this earlier this week, I mentioned the fact that we spend a great deal of time focusing on how we can better support the most vulnerable young people. And I feel it's equally important that we celebrate our young people who are making positive contributions to our city. I'm very proud of Derek being Baltimore's inaugural Youth Poet Laureate. He is inspiring, and he has a powerful voice that speaks to the unique facets of the Baltimore experience. I look forward to his efforts to promote citywide appreciation for literacy and for the arts, and I'm confident that he will inspire young people across our city to become more creative and more engaged in their communities. Derek is born and raised in Baltimore. What part?
There's a part.
All over?
Say again?
All over Baltimore?
All over.
All right. I'll take that as an answer. He had the honor of opening for the National Poet Laureate last year, 2015. He was named the Baltimore Urban Debate League champion in 2013, and he hopes to one day become an English professor. So I have this certificate of recognition on behalf of the citizens of Baltimore. I am very pleased to present this certificate to Derek Ebert in recognition of being named Baltimore's first Youth Poet Laureate. As the honored young wordsmith, you have demonstrated a commitment to excellence and bear the responsibility of being the positive and powerful voice of our youth for our great city. You are a brilliant son of Baltimore, and I have signed and issued this certificate in celebration of your talent and your future success. Thank you. Thank you very much. I also want to thank our other youth poet ambassadors, and I just like the fact that we have 3 young men here as our poet ambassadors. Let me try to remember. DeAndre?
Yeah.
Yes. I have this recognition for you as well. Thank you very much for being a youth poet ambassador. I'm so very proud of you and your talent. I want to give that to you. And then to Mr. Muhammad Tall, I have this for you in recognition of your work as well. I am going to introduce now Mr. Kenneth Morrison, who is the Executive Director of Do More Baltimore, to speak in more detail about the Poet Laureate program. Mr. Morrison.
Thanks so much. So I'm really excited for Do More Baltimore to partner with the city on this endeavor. The Youth Poet Laureate is a national program born out of New York by the Urban Word Initiative. And they're doing great work around the country. We were really excited to work with them to bring that program here to Baltimore City. Like most Youth Poet Laureate programs nationally and statewide, it's about creating a platform for people's voices to be heard, for art to have a role in helping to engage community and to build community and to work with other art forms to make sure that art is a very significant role in what we do as a city. So the Youth Poet Laureate is a very significant initiative for primary purpose of creating that platform for young people's voices to be heard and for give them a very significant role in building community. So I'm really excited to partner with the city on this endeavor. Do More Baltimore's excited for our first Youth Poet Laureate and the Youth Poet Ambassadors. We're excited to work with the Enoch Pratt Library and the other partners that were a very significant role in make sure this is happening in Baltimore. So really excited to be here, really excited to make this happen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morrison. Now I would like to introduce Naila Covington, who is a librarian with the Enoch Pratt Free Library System, to talk about the Pratt's role. Ms. Covington.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to, as a representative of Enoch Pratt Free Library and a teen specialist, I'm very excited about this because our role with the city is to create a safe space for young people to come and express themselves, not just with books, but creating programming and things like this. So working with Mr. Kenneth Morrison is exciting because it opens up the Pratt Library in a new way. It allows teens to have a voice, an expressive and explosive voice, and to bring literacy and literature in a fun new way to our spaces, and also to partner with other youth and other schools to bring poetry into our spaces, and to hopefully get more youth and more parents to see that Pratt's role is not just for books, but for education, to explore in a whole new way. So we are also excited about the ambassadors as well as the Youth Poet Laureate, and we expected this to grow even more for times to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Covington. And with that, Mr. Ebert, correct?
Yes.
You are on.
All right.
So, good morning.
Good morning.
I've been asked to open up with a poem, so I will. This poem is titled Pieces, and I will be performing this poem this Saturday at the Teach for America Gala. So, an ode to the teachers that taught me. Miss Taylor, you are the only wrecking ball I get a satisfaction of seeing as you knock down borders for children that only knew life as a circumference. Where race meant radius, you got us to read Toni Morrison's Bluest Eye, and oh my, how I became your little Maureen Peale. Set off a room full of ninth graders with a squill. You made learning something we could enjoy. Our daily lunchroom gossip filled with literary devices, we'd say Miss Taylor is just like a wrecking ball, knocking down empty homes housed in the minds of students. She created a new foundation and gave us the pieces to grow. Mr. Smith was more like an instruction manual from IKEA. He could never make things easy, and sometimes had tacky jokes in the forms of presentations. He'd say, I always encourage getting high off knowledge, and we would laugh at him and not with him, but we loved what he could show us. As a history teacher, he revealed that this is where we come from, but does not mean where we stay. And just like a nomad, you should not dwell in one place. The world is no different than a high school textbook. Go to Iraq, Iran, Japan, play in Egypt's sand, then come back and teach for America. Mr. Smith was an instruction manual that taught us how to put the pieces together. Mr. Daniels was every student's brick wall. Even when his needed some rebuilding, he'd be there, ready to listen, ready to feel the pressure of heavy heads of students that didn't know what the future would look like. We had him for speech class. As students with fear crept to the blackboard to begin reciting a personal prose, he'd tell us, feet spread apart, base steady. If a hurricane were to come whirling in, you better give it eye contact and not flinch when things fall apart around you. Be a brick wall, keep your composure, everything will be okay. Then there was Mr. Miazga, the one that opened the door to this passion. As I began etching myself into calligraphy, he introduced me to James Baldwin. I began wanting to write my story ever since in hopes that I could teach the youth, teach some of you to be open with truth. Mr. Miazga was like a roof. And with that final piece, I felt like a home. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sure now you can see why he was selected as our first youth poet laureate. Very, very proud of you, extremely talented. I don't know if you have any questions for our poet laureate or our youth ambassadors before we go on to the less interesting things.
Well, Mr. Ebert, if you could tell us what writers inspire you? Who do you admire?
So, I admire, as I mentioned in the poem, I admire James Baldwin. I adore him for his endings. I said this in the Afro, and I'll say it again. How he ends with a lot of his writings, it just like leaves you in awe, because it's like, you know, you read a lot of his content, but at the ending it just like, it sums up like, this is what I want you to take away. This is the message I want you to take away. I'm also inspired by Toni Morrison because James Baldwin inspired Toni Morrison. I'm in love with almost all of her writing. And then on the spoken word side of things, I'm inspired by poets from California and from DC as well, Pages Matam, Javon Johnson, and Rudy Francisco, just for their creative styles and how they kind of deal with wordplay.
Mayor, I'm sorry, but a question for the mayor. When he was reading that, I saw you kind of smiling and reading along with him. What was going through your mind when he was presenting his poem?
What's going through my mind was I'm just glad that you and these other cameras are here to witness this, because I think far too often our young people have such amazing talent and are so inspirational, and nobody cares. And you know, had these three young guys been in a fight here in City Hall, I think, you know, this room would have been filled up with even more press. But the fact that they're here talking about their mind, and you're here too, I was just grateful that his story is going to be told, and hopefully continue to be told, because while we have these three very fine young men up here, I'm sure they'll tell you that they're not alone, that they have friends that are readers, that love literature, that love poetry, that love creating, and I want their story to be told more in Baltimore. And just so proud, you know, that he's from Baltimore, and just very talented. And after he spoke, and he was talking about his favorite author, James Baldwin is my favorite author as well. So I thought all you have to be is a Pisces, and we'll be all totally in sync. Anybody else have any questions for them? Thank
I
you.
have one question. You went to City College, am I correct?
Yes, Baltimore City College High School.
You know, there's a lot of discussion about how to get young people, students engaged in, you know, the arts, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that?
How to get young people engaged within the arts? Just to introduce them. So at City, we were introduced to what I like to call things like classic poetry, Emily Dickinson, E. Cummings, and things like that, which is engaging, and some students eventually do get involved into writing poetry, classic poetry, in that kind of sense. For me, I was introduced through watching YouTube videos. And I feel like if that was done more often within class, or even to hold workshops with teaching artists, that would definitely get students more engaged to want to pick up a pen and begin to write poetries, or even prose for that matter, or just begin to share things about themselves that they usually wouldn't.
What do you want people to take away from this platform you've been given?
Just that every youth has a voice, and that it's a tool, and that they need to learn how to use it, because it's important.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Congrats.
Thank you.
Very proud of you. Very proud. DeAndre, thank you very much. Congratulations. I'm going to give you the folder. Thank you.
So, how do you go to Annapolis to Monday night?
It was definitely what I anticipated. It was a roller coaster session. I think we had talked about that before. Yeah, we had some successes. We had, I feel like, you know, they'd fallen short in some areas. I'd hoped to get further with the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights than we did. But again, as I mentioned before, you know, we are making progress, and I remain resolute in my determination to continue to advocate for more accountability, more transparency, and more tools for the police commissioner to be able to discipline officers who are accused of wrongdoing. And I think having that those additional tools will support the progress that we've already seen. I talked about the fact that we have worked very hard to make the trial board system more fair, and to increase our, or to improve our investigations, and because of that, our findings of guilt have gone up from the trial board, as well as more officers are taking, are settling accepting the punishment, because they're seeing that the punishments are fitting the alleged misconduct, and we're headed in the right direction. Again, as I mentioned previously, I think it was this year, I talked about the fact that we continue to have reductions in the number of cases brought against the city and the incidents of misconduct, discourtesy, and excessive force. So we are headed in the right direction, and I continue to be motivated by that progress. I'm also pleased that the governor, I believe, signed yesterday our bill to help eliminate food deserts in the city. It's something that I'm very passionate about as we try to improve the health outcomes for our residents and as well as erase the health disparities that we have. I think this incentive will be helpful and support the work that we're doing to bring fresh and healthy food to more of Baltimore's neighborhoods. So I was pleased about that. Still concerned. I know about the school's budget. I know that Dr. Thornton made his preliminary budget presentation, I think it was last night. And that budget presentation is dependent on the $10 million that was sort of caught up in no man's land with the governor's budget, the money that was cut but not reappropriated. And I hope that the governor uses the discretion that he has to appropriate that money in the interim between the session. He does have that authority, and I hope he uses it.
Now, on the LEOPR bills that you proposed, when you were talking to legislators, what were they telling you as far as their concerns, what they would like to see, what they would not like to see? And
so we're still doing that assessment right now. You know, I talked to a few, my team talked to a few. You know, as I mentioned, we know when you try to do something bold and something different, it's a legislative process and it is a deliberative process, and you know, it is not uncommon that it takes more than 90 days to get something big done. And like I said, I'm going to stay focused on getting it done, and we'll be back at it next session.
Some of this stuff you could take care of through contract negotiation, am I correct?
I think so, but it's just like with anything. Once it's a contract, and it can be contracted in, it can be contracted out, and we're looking for more ability to enforce, more authority. We want it to be a stronger enforcement ability.
Madam Mayor, there have been reports that Deputy Commissioner Jerry Rodriguez may be leaving the department. Is there any insight you could offer us regarding this?
I cannot give you any information about that.
Is that a concern of yours if he is departing, considering what he oversees? And
I cannot give you any information about that.
okay, could you touch on the settlement when you're talking about the Bill of Rights for law enforcement?
Say that again?
The settlement on today's agenda.
Yeah.
Is it a little disheartening for you? Or?
You know, I would be disheartened if I didn't see the consistent trend downward. If I didn't see that we were making progress. We know that in every jurisdiction of our size, and any organization, police organization of our size, you know that there's no jurisdiction that has zero incident, right? So if the reality is somebody's going to do something, then you have to figure out how you're going to respond to it, how you're going to do the best that you can to train so you can reduce the number of incidents, and then when the inevitable happens and something happens, how you're going to respond. And on the front end and on the back end, with our training and with the support that we're giving to the officers and with our focus on better relationships with the community, we're seeing progress in significant ways. And on the back end, we're making sure that we're holding officers accountable. So, I would love to be in a place where we had zero incidents, but that's not the real world. And the real world progress that we're making is encouraging.
Do you have any thoughts? I don't know if you're aware of the incident involving the young man earlier this week, Freddie Gray.
Yeah, I'm still getting information. I have been made aware of it, and that's still under investigation. So I don't have any comments to make, except for that I know that the commissioner is seriously investigating it, and I look forward to getting a more thorough briefing after that work is done.
Any update on your thinking about the open Senate seat?
No.
You don't want to tell us?
I saw something interesting, wasn't it? Who wrote the article about Congressman Cummings?
Luke.
Was that, yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting.
But he says his poll numbers are better than anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta give up that seat. I mean, isn't that bottom line that everybody's afraid to run, so you gotta give up your existing seat?
Well, I can't speak for everyone. My motivation for focusing on my role as mayor is not out of fear. It's out of the fact that I think we've made a tremendous amount of progress, and the progress that we've seen in Baltimore was not inevitable. We've had periods of time where we haven't seen the amount of growth that we've seen, the amount of investment that we've seen, the amount of job creation that we've seen under my administration, and I don't want to slip back. I think that I love what I have a chance to do, and I know that there are still many people in need in Baltimore that need support. And so it's not, for me, focusing on being mayor is not a decision made in fears. It is a focus that's made with an earnest commitment to the city and the residents that I love.
Now that Hillary is in the race.
Last question.
I know that you said the other day you can't pick sides because you're an officer of the DNC.
Mhm.
Do you, what's your opinion on whether it would be good, indifferent, good, not good, doesn't matter for Hillary to have robust competition in the primary?
So rather than to talk about whether she should have robust competition, I think we should have, as Democrats, robust conversation about what we stand for as Democrats and how we are going to make our country work for more Americans. Too many, while we have seen some growth and we've seen some recovery from the Great Recession, there is still a lot of anxiety that we're going to slide back, that the brutal impact of so many people losing their jobs and so much income insecurity, people don't want to go back. And I think as Democrats, we need to do a better job articulating the ways in which we stand for working Americans, middle-class Americans, and how we want to deliver more prosperity for American families. And that's the robust conversation that I believe we should be having as Democrats. And I think that conversation should happen whether or not there is another serious Democratic contender.
Did you see the Saturday Night Live sketch?
Nope.
Thank you.